In a rare move, Supreme Court Chief Justice John Roberts is rebuking comments made by President Trump. Roberts took issue with this Truth Social post from yesterday morning. In it, the president calls for the federal judge overseeing a case on deportation flights to be removed from his position. Quote, this judge, like many of the crooked judges I'm forced to appear before, should be impeached. Justice Roberts, who did not mention the president by name, tackled that statement head on, writing, quote, for more than 2 centuries, it has been established that impeachment is not an appropriate response to disagreement concerning a judicial decision. The normal appellate review process exists for that purpose. President Trump responded in a TV interview last night and denied that he had defied the courts.
He didn't mention my name in the statement. I just saw it quickly. He didn't mention my name, but many people have called for his impeachment, the impeachment of this judge. I don't know who the judge is, but he's radical left. He was Obama appointed. And he actually said we shouldn't be able to take criminals, killers, murderers, horrible, the worst people, gang members, gang leaders, that we shouldn't be allowed to take them out of our country. Well, that's a presidential job. That's not for a local judge to be making that determination. And I thought it was terrible.
Would you defy a court order? Because we all know that was outrageous.
I never did defy a court order.
And you wouldn't in the future?
No, you can't do that. However, we have bad judges. We have very bad judges. And these are judges that shouldn't be allowed. I think at a certain point, you have to start looking at what do you do when you have a rogue judge?
Claire, wow. we have to point it out. First of all, the president says that all these people are killers, murderers, rapists, et cetera, da-da-da. All the judge is saying is, let us make sure that all the peoples are murderers, rapists. You guys need to give us the facts. I need the information on these people that you've taken out of the country. But it bears repeating, as the president continues to say, oh, this is a rogue judge or somebody else needs to be impeached because a district court judge stopped the ruling of a president. This happens all the time. And I just want to keep repeating this because we can't let that stick. It's just not true. The fact is, of course, as we've said before, Barack Obama had his immigration laws stopped by a court as being illegal. I think it was presidential signature. You can go back to George W. Bush. He had his NSA enhanced interrogation program stopped by a federal judge. One federal judge, one district court judge, just like the Obama judge. We also had an Obama directive on gender. Stopped dead in its tracks by one federal judge. It happens. Joe Biden had this happen many times. He had it happen on student loans, stopped by a district federal judge. He also had the vaccine mandates for federal workers. One judge stopped it. And then, as the Chief Justice said, and also as Republican Senator from Louisiana, John Kennedy said, if you're president and you don't like what the district court judge, this one did, doesn't mean he's rogue or she's rogue. It means that they're doing what the Constitution says they do. And then, as Senator Kennedy says, that's why God gave us appellate court. So this idea that we're hearing out of the White House, that we're hearing, by staff members of the president screaming on cable news that this is the worst thing. This never happened before. It's a rogue judge. He should be impeached. No, this happens to every single president. It's just this president and the people around him are the only ones who are acting like this is the first time it's ever happened before.
Yeah, and let's not forget there was a single judge in Texas that tried to say that mifepristone could not be used anywhere, even in states where abortion was legal. And let's not forget there was a single judge in Texas that struck down overtime, minimum wage stuff that Biden put in place for federal contractors, one single judge. So, and here's the thing, as you said, Joe, it's really important to remember this. That judge did not say that you cannot remove people in the country that are here illegally that have committed crimes. Never said that. Never even came close to saying that. All this judge said was the president can't just say, I'm going to pick up a bunch of people and I'm going to tell you that they are an enemy force invading our country and put them on a plane and put them in a prison in El Salvador. That's not the way America works. That's not the way due process works. That's not the way the law works in this country. The idea that a court is holding this administration accountable to the law is something that everybody should be celebrating. Regardless of your party, regardless of whether you're left, right, or middle, it doesn't matter. We've got to make sure that people cannot be picked up and disappeared like his buddy Putin does, like his buddy Xi does, like his buddy Kim Jong-un does. They do this. They disappear people and many times murder them. So we're not going to go down that road. And I don't care how much the president screams irresponsibly about impeachment. There's no way. Remember, there's only been a handful of judges in the history of this country that have been impeached. And that's because you know what you have to have in the Senate for impeachment, Joe? You have to have 2/3, not 60, 2/3. And I've run an impeachment in the Senate. I know what that process is like. So this is just a way to undermine the rule of law with the American people. And the president should be ashamed of himself for it.
Yeah, no doubt about it. You know, the Wall Street Journal editorial page, Robert speaks up for justice. Willie, this is the second day in a row that the Supreme Court, or the second day in a row that the Wall Street Journal editorial page is telling the President of the United States. Again, this is for the uninitiated. This is Rupert Murdoch's newspaper. They say Mr. Trump will win some cases and lose others on the legal merits in the next 4 years, as he did in his first term. The best defense against losing is to act within the law. So the Roberts Court is saying, the Supreme Court is saying, and the Wall Street Journal is saying, all right, well, if you don't like losing, then start acting within the law.
Yeah, and Chief Justice Roberts' statement was very brief, by the way. It wasn't like a long rant about President Trump. He said there's an appellate process for this. If you don't like the decision that you've seen, you appeal. You don't impeach the judges. That's just not how our process works. Chris, I'm curious what you make of all this. Donald Trump saying, the president saying, these are bad judges, which means a judge who disagrees with him, obviously, and effectively suggesting that they need to be thrown out. He's got the support of members of his MAGA base, of the media, saying, yes, he's right. You got to get rid of judges who dare cross President Trump. But you have the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court stepping in saying that's not how this works. What do you make about where this might end up?
Well, he's questioning the separation of powers. Yeah. And he's questioning whether a judge has a right to be a judge. Clearly, he's teaching again, as I said the other day. He's always teaching. He's always got a Sesame Street thing going, teaching the MAGA people what to think. They all hate this judge now. That's what he wants them to do, the MAGA people. And they're the ones that the senators are afraid of and the Congress people are afraid of, are the MAGA people. Because they go to meetings, they cause hell, and they sometimes agree with Trump, but mostly they do what he wants. And they do what they see him doing. He trashes a judge like he trashes Zelensky. And what do we think of Zelensky on the right in America? They don't like Zelensky. He's the bad guy. The good guy is Putin, the guy he cuddles up to every night in his sleep. He just loves this guy. No matter what he says no, as Joe says. He said no. And they said, fine, I love it.
So we should note a few things that Justice Roberts didn't say. He didn't say Donald Trump's name, which Trump himself made point of last night in that interview on Fox, and it sort of deflected it because of that. He also didn't talk about sort of the systemic attacks on the judiciary we are getting from the White House and from the chief executive. But, you know, certainly it is very noteworthy that he said this at all, that he did stop up against this call for impeachment, because that is the underlying theme here, is that we have seen, that's the undergoing foundation of this presidency is to expand executive power. They've already pushed into Congress, and the Republican Congress has happily ceded a lot of their power already to the White House. And now they're trying to move, Joe, into the judiciary. They're trying to push here. We're seeing the attacks on these individual judges. We're seeing these calls for impeachment that requires the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court to step in.
You know, it's interesting. They're going up to the line. It's interesting that the president last night in the interview, from the clip that we showed, and also you hear other people in the administration, and you hear the judges in the courtroom, the president's judges in the courtroom, saying, we're not going to defy an order.
Yeah.
We're not going to defy an order. But Mika, they're obviously dancing all around it with facts, changing the facts, arguing everything but what actually happened on those flights or on some of these other issues. But are still saying, oh, of course, we're not going to defy a court's order. But right now, you have some judges who are trying to figure out whether they actually have or not.
Yeah.
And to Chris's point, it's not just teaching the MAGA base and members of the media that are Trump adjacent, or however you want to describe them, that the judge is bad. The line that you'll hear is Democrats want gang members to go free, which is the last thing that this is about.